The reason why this is the important skill to state it and claim it is because people who experience synchronicities are higher in what is called referential thinking, which means you have a belief that things happening around you have to do with you, meaning you're responsible for it. And I want to give you a super simple example of what I'm talking about. This is something you can start practicing today to state it and claim it, okay? So let's just take an example that you can relate to. Let's say that you're at the store, you're at the supermarket, and holy cow, it's a long line. I mean, really long line. And you're standing at this supermarket in line, and boy, you wish another line would just open up. Here's how you're going to use this first skill. You're going to state what you want. So as you're standing in this long line, and I want you to just put yourself there. I mean, you got a cart full of stuff. There are probably 7 people in front of you. You're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, why are they have so few people working? When are they going to, Stop. You have a superpower. State what you want. Stand there and say to yourself, I want a line to open up. It's really that simple. I want a line to open up. And then when it happens, don't just shrug your shoulders and go, that's a coincidence. I guess I'm lucky. No, claim it. Put a smirk on your face and say to yourself, and check that out. I made that happen. That's pretty cool. That's not a coincidence. Claim ownership for creating the energy shift and creating that magic. And this is hard. But here's what I want you to understand about the unexplainable or quantum nature of all of this. See, when you're standing there with your cart full of stuff and there's 7 people in front of you and the line is snaking all the way back down into the aisles and everybody else around you is getting agitated and starting to complain, and you have the guts and the clarity and the confidence to state with intention, I want a line to open up. You set something in motion. See, right now you're not using this power correctly. I want you to start stating what you want before it happens. I have this story to share with you. So 24 years ago, my mom and I went to the world's largest antique market. It's in Western Massachusetts. It's called Brimfield Antique Market. It is so freaking cool. It happens, I think, the second Tuesday through Sunday of every May, July, and September. Okay, it's like 6 football fields of stuff. And so my mom and I go to this, and our daughter Sawyer was a baby. And I had her in the baby Bjorn. And before we walked into Brimfield, I stated what I wanted. I said, I want to find a red and white quilt in the traditional shaker style, like an antique quilt. And if you don't know what a shaker style quilt is, it's like one of those old fashioned traditional quilts that, are in big white squares and triangles, very geometric. And, as I stated it, I want to find a red and white quilt in the traditional shaker style. I could picture it in my mind. I knew exactly where I wanted it to go in my house. And as I started to walk toward the market, I kept stating to myself, I'm going to find that quilt today. Not I want it. I'm going to find a red and white antique shaker style quilt. And by stating it, I am setting something powerful in motion. Now, I looked all day. I mean, we must have walked 40,000 steps. I looked at vendor after vendor and quilt after quilt, and there were lots of shaker quilts, lots of red and white ones. But nothing really hit me. But I kept saying, I am going to find the perfect red and white antique shaker quilt. I just knew it. I stated it. I kept stating it. And we were getting near the end of the day, and we're heading back to the car, and we're passing some of the final stalls as people are packing things up. And all of a sudden I notice, wait a minute, there's a quilt. I see it folded up underneath those cutting boards over there. Let's go check that out. So we walk over, we remove the cutting boards off the top of this thing, and my mom and I start to unfold it. And it was really cool. But here's the thing. It had some stains on it. It was kind of tattered, like, some of the squares were pulling off. And the person that was working the booth walks up and said, now this is a very rare antique quilt because this is considered a wedding quilt. And I said, well, what is that? And they said, well, in this town, it was the tradition that everybody in the town, when somebody got married, would sign the names of all the people that were attending the wedding for the young couple that was getting married. And so here I am, my mom and I, we've got the quilt all unfolded and we're looking at it. And, I'm kind of looking past the stains and the tears, and you could notice all this handwriting on the white squares. And it literally, I'm not kidding, looked like, that handwriting from like the Declaration of Independence, that like super scripty thing that looks like somebody wrote it with a feather. And my mom's going, oh my God, look at this old fashioned cursive. This is just so cool. And I'm like, yeah, look at some of the names. And all of a sudden, as I started looking closer, holy cow. The last names on the quilt, over and over and over. Sawyer, Sawyer, Joseph Sawyer, Emily Sawyer, Sarah Sawyer, Frederick Sawyer. The hair on my arms stood straight up. My mom was like, oh my gosh, Sawyer's name is all over this quilt. We have to buy this thing. This is unbelievable. I'm sure the quilt dealer doubled the price in his mind in that moment. But there is zero doubt that I was meant to find that quilt. I mean, here's the thing. Is it a coincidence that I look all day and underneath cutting boards, heading to the car, I spot a quilt out of the corner of my eye. We unfold it and I look past the tears and the stains after rejecting quilts all day long, only to find out that my daughter's name, Sawyer, is the last name of half the people who have signed this quilt as a wedding gift 200 years ago for somebody? That is not a coincidence. I made that happen. I stated what I wanted when I got out of that car 8 hours before. I kept stating what I wanted all day long, even though it wasn't happening. I kept stating what I wanted, even when the quilt was in my hands, and I believed with every ounce in my body that it was going to happen, and I made it happen. I was meant to find this exact quilt at this exact time while I was with my mom visiting from Michigan, wearing my daughter, whose name is Sawyer, which is half of the names that were on this 200-year-old quilt. That stating it set this in motion. And here is how you can start to apply step 1. Before you go shopping anywhere, and you're pulling up to some place and you don't know exactly what they have in stock. So let's say you're pulling up to like a Marshall's or a TJ Maxx or a flea market or garage sale. I want you to take a beat and create a little scavenger hunt for yourself. This is how you tap into the superpower, okay? First, you're going to state to yourself, without knowing what's actually in there, what are you going to find? What are you going to find? Are you in front of a garage sale and you want to find an antique compass? Are you sitting at a flea market and you want to find an old, ladder? Are you sitting in front of TJ Maxx and there's a particular something you would love to find? I want you to play this game where you start to state it to yourself. I'm going to find X. And then I want you to visualize this moment where you do. In fact, my colleague Amy just did this, I kid you not, with her daughter Jane last night. So last night they pulled into TJ Maxx and Amy was already stating what she wanted. She wanted her daughter Jane to find a dress for this dance that's coming up at the high school. So she turns to her daughter Jane and says, so what do you want to find? And Jane says, well, I need a dress for the winter formal. And I love the dress that I have, but it's a summer dress. So I would love a dress just like that one, but only in a different material so that I have something for the winter formal. Amy's like, great. She starts stating it to herself. We are going to find that dress. The perfect dress is going to be in there. So they walk into the store. She's set this in motion, and they can't find anything. You know how sometimes TJ Maxx, it's hit or miss, right? Like that's the fun of going in there. You don't know what you're going to get. It was like they had stopped selling dresses, but Amy was doubling down. And she is saying to herself, we're going to find a dress. We're going to find the perfect dress. We're going to find the perfect dress. And then all of a sudden, Jane calls to her from clear across the store and says, Mom, I found the rack. Amy heads over to her. She gets there. It's like a pathetic, sad rack. But Amy was setting things in motion. We're going to find this dress. I just have this feeling. This is going to happen. We're going to do this. They go through the whole rack. Absolutely nothing. Amy was even trying to sell Jane on a few of them. Jane's like, nope. Amy's not giving up. We're going to find that dress. And all of a sudden, she looks out of the corner of her eye. Couple racks over, there's a bunch of pajamas. Guess what she spots in the middle of the pajamas? That's right. There was a dress there that someone had randomly stuck on the pajama rack. So Amy darts on over, and it was as if the dress that Jane had at home, the one that she loved, it was as if all of the little birds and mice and Cinderella came in with their bows and their ribbons and made it even better. Just like that. It's this halter dress with a circle at the top, and it was black, and Jane was like, oh, I don't know. And Amy said, we got to try it on. And now Amy's like, we found the dress. The dressing room was closed. Coincidence? I don't think so. Not when you set something in motion. She can't try it on, which means what? The universe is telling her, this is your dress. Trust. Take it home and try it on. And sure enough, when they got home and Jane put on the dress, it was exactly what she had wanted. So did Amy create all that? Of course she did. She set that in motion. And this is way more than a story about buying a dress. This is way more than a story about how you create a successful shopping trip. Did you hear the meaning in the story? Like how much richer that scavenger hunt became when you walk in with this spirit that everything is working out for you? Without the skill of stating what you want and then knowing that you're setting something powerful in motion, not only would this not have happened because they wouldn't have seen the dress over on the PJ rack, but it opens you up to experience life at a completely different way. And right now, you're walking by opportunities that you're not even open to seeing, and they're all around you. That's why this is so cool. Here's another way that you can start practicing using it. So anytime you go to a networking event or a party or any place where you're going to meet new people, I want you to practice stating what you want before you walk in. I'm going to meet somebody really cool tonight. I'm going to meet somebody that can help me with this job search. I'm going to meet somebody who can help me raise money for this company I'm starting. I'm going to meet somebody that needs to buy a house, and I'm a real estate agent who is looking for customers. Set it in motion. Set it in motion by stating what's going to happen before it happens. And then when it happens, claim it. I made that happen. I made that happen. The point here is to brainwash your mind to believe that something good is going to happen before it does. Because when you do that, your mind conspires to help you. That's how you unlock the power of it. Your mind spots the dress on the pajama rack. It spots the quilt underneath the cutting boards. It zeroes in on the one person standing in the corner who has this interesting vibe about them, and you don't know why it is, but for some reason you feel pulled to walk over to them, and you've said you're going to meet the person that you need to meet, and they turn out to be the exact person that you needed to meet, and you sell them the house, or they introduce you to the person at the company that you've always wanted to interview at. And look, do you always find the dress? No. Do you always meet somebody who happens to know somebody that you needed to? Maybe not. But going into these situations, believing that something good is going to happen, it changes your entire experience of it. And let me tell you this. How does expecting the worst help you? How does expecting, I'm never going to find anything. They never have a lot of dresses. How does that help you find a dress? How does walking into some sort of event saying, this is a waste of time. I'm shy, I'm introverted, I'll never meet anybody at this kind of thing. How is that going to help you meet people that could change the course of your career or your business or your life? See, I think you're so afraid to want something and not have it turn out that you stop yourself from setting it in motion. You won't even allow yourself to state and declare that it's going to happen. And when you don't do that, you close yourself off to everything that's possible. See, I'm teaching you right now how to stand in the present moment and start to connect dots forward, to see the path, to see that the world and the universe and the powers that be have your back and are conspiring to guide you. Another cool thing about learning how to do this is you can also do this in reverse. If you really look back on your past with an honest look, you will see how all the dots of your life connect you to this moment. For example, you can see now in this moment why that painful breakup had to happen. Why that school you got rejected from had to happen. If that breakup hadn't happened, you would never have met the love of your life. You would never have faced the things that you needed to heal in yourself if that relationship had not ended. And you can also look backwards and find these moments where you now realize, oh my God, even back then, my life was trying to guide me. Because I just knew that that relationship had to end 6 months before it did. I just knew I was making the right decision. You know, those moments where you can look in the past and you're like, oh my God, I just know it in my bones. That's a moment of synchronicity. Because when you just know it's true, you are finding meaning in something where nobody else does. Like that moment you just knew it was the right school. Do you know it was a just know it moment that brought us to Southern Vermont? Our son Oakley didn't want to go to the public high school outside of Boston where his sisters went. And he just campaigned to tour the public high school up here in Southern Vermont where his grandmother lived. And when he stepped on that campus, he just knew this was where he was supposed to be. He knew it. He couldn't explain it, but he knew it was true. And he stated it. I'm going to school here. And by doing that, he set something in motion. He did that at the beginning of 8th grade. And for an entire year, his father and I were like, no, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. But guess what? The universe had other plans because Oakley Robbins had set this sucker in motion and he was willing it to happen. And we find ourselves here trying it out, freshman year, giving it a whirl. He set that in motion without him stating it, without him having that just knew. He felt something and he gave the feeling he felt when he walked on that campus meaning. This is the place for me. You have had those experiences in your life. Maybe you just knew that a certain person was the right person. They were your person. Or you just knew, oh my God, I got to get out of this situation. You left and found another job and next thing you know, the company folds. You didn't get on the train and everybody got sick on the train. And you didn't know why. You couldn't explain why, but you just knew. See, when you stand in this moment and you look backwards and you see these just know moments, that's also evidence of deep synchronicity happening in your life. That your life is telling you something, that things aren't a coincidence. And when you state it and then you claim it, that's skill number one. Whether you're practicing this before you walk into a store or a meeting, or you're just going through your day-to-day life saying, I'm going to get confirmation today about this decision. I'm going to see a sign, whether it's a number or an animal or a song, or I'm going to see a tattoo or somebody's going to say something. Something's going to happen. And the reason why it happens is because you set it in motion by saying, I'm going to get confirmation. You've experienced these moments, right? Where you're like, oh my God, can you believe that just happened? Is that a coincidence? Or is that life telling you something? You get to decide.